When we think of infamous money launderers and cartels like the Sinaloa cartel, one question usually comes to mind. How on earth did they get away with smuggling billions of dollars? Well, we've got all the answers here for you today. From creating elaborate front companies to strapping cash onto other people, here are the genius ways in which money launderers and cartels hide their illegal money. Shell companies and offshore accounts. Money launderers and cartels often employ a complex web of shell companies and offshore accounts to camouflage the origins and destinations of illicit funds. These tactics create layers of obfuscation that make it incredibly challenging for law enforcement agencies to trace the flow of money and identify the individuals behind these illegal activities. Shell companies, essentially empty entities with little to no legitimate business operations, serve as the primary tool in this scheme. They're typically registered in jurisdictions with lax regulations and enforcements, such as offshore tax havens or countries with weak financial oversight. These companies are easy to establish, requiring minimal documentation and often allowing for anonymous ownership through nominee directors or shareholders. Once set up, the shell company becomes the intermediary for moving dirty money. Cartels and money launderers funnel illicit proceeds into these companies through various means, including fake invoicing, inflated transactions, or simply direct deposits. The funds are then shuffled between multiple shell companies, creating a convoluted trail that confounds investigators. Everyone's heard of the Panama Papers and how they exposed the world's ultra-wealthy for tax evasion and fraud. Well, money launderers and cartels also use offshore accounts to maintain a veil of secrecy and protection from scrutiny. They stash their ill-gotten gains in these accounts, which are shielded by strict bank secrecy laws and limited disclosure requirements. This makes it exceedingly difficult for authorities to track down the beneficiaries of the illicit funds. Luckily for them, offshore jurisdictions often lack robust cooperation with international law enforcement agencies, further complicating efforts to uncover the true beneficiaries of these transactions. Additionally, the use of nominee directors or shareholders adds another layer of anonymity, making it challenging to identify the individuals ultimately pulling the strings behind these shell companies and offshore accounts. Trade-based money laundering. Trade-based money laundering, TBML, is a crafty tactic utilized by criminals, including cartels and money launderers, to cloak their illicit funds within the complexities of international trade transactions. It's like a game of financial hide-and-seek, where the stakes are high and the players are masters of deception. At its core, TBML involves manipulating trade transactions to obscure the origins and destinations of dirty money. One common method is through over- or under-invoicing goods in legitimate trade transactions. Let's say a cartel wants to launder proceeds from drug sales. They might over-invoice the price of goods they're importing into a country. This inflates the value of the transaction, allowing them to move more money across borders without raising suspicion. Conversely, they might under-invoice goods and exports, effectively smuggling money out of a country under the guise of legitimate trade. For instance, a money launderer could understate the value of exported goods, allowing them to transfer illicit funds abroad without attracting attention. Another sneaky tactic involves the use of false trade documentation. Cartels might create fake invoices, bills of lading, or shipping manifests to legitimize their illicit transactions. These forged documents help mask the true nature of the trade, making it appear legitimate to customs authorities and financial institutions. Moreover, TBML often exploits the complexity of global supply chains. Criminals exploit the numerous intermediaries involved in trade, making it harder for authorities to trace the movements of illicit funds. With goods passing through multiple hands and jurisdictions, it's like trying to follow a breadcrumb trail through a labyrinth. TBML is like a financial sleight of hand, where criminals manipulate trade transactions to launder their dirty money under the noses of regulators and law enforcement. To combat this insidious tactic, authorities must enhance collaboration across borders, improve trade documentation, verification processes, and deploy sophisticated data analytics to identify suspicious patterns in trade flows. After all, in this high-stakes game of financial cat and mouse, staying one step ahead is the key to victory. Structuring transactions. Structured transactions are like a game of financial hide-and-seek for cartels and money launderers. They use these sneaky maneuvers to dodge the watchful eyes of law enforcement and slip their ill-gotten gains through the cracks of the banking system. Structured transactions basically involve breaking up large sums of dirty money into smaller, more manageable chunks. Think of it like trying to smuggle a massive cake out of a party by slicing it into tiny, inconspicuous pieces. These smaller transactions fly under the radar, making them less likely to trigger suspicion or set off alarm bells. One classic tactic is known as smurfing. And no, it doesn't involve little blue creatures. Instead, it's about recruiting a network of unwitting accomplices, or smurfs, to make multiple small transactions on behalf of the criminal enterprise. Each smurf deposits or withdraws modest amounts of cash, keeping the transactions below the threshold that would trigger reporting requirements. Another favorite trick up their sleeve is called structuring, which involves deliberately keeping transactions just below the reporting threshold set by financial institutions. For example, if a bank requires reporting for any transaction over 10 grand, the savvy criminal might make several deposits or withdrawals of $9,000 each to avoid detection. To add another layer of disguise, criminals might engage in splitting, where they divide a large sum of money into several parts and send them through different channels or accounts. It's like sending pieces of a puzzle to different addresses, making it incredibly challenging for investigators to piece together the full picture. But the creativity doesn't stop there. Criminals might also use a technique called laddering, where they gradually move money through a series of transactions, each one seemingly legitimate on its own, but collectively washing the funds clean. Real estate investments. As it turns out, the world of real estate isn't just a playground for dream homes and skyscrapers, but also for cunning criminals looking to launder their dirty cash and stash their illicit gains. Cartels and money launderers have long recognized the potential of real estate investments as a convenient cover for their nefarious activities. Picture this: a sleek penthouse overlooking the city skyline, a sprawling mansion nestled in the countryside, or perhaps a string of luxury apartments in prime locations. These properties serve as more than just lavish abodes. They're strategic assets in the game of money laundering. One common tactic is the purchase of high-value properties using illicit funds. Cartels and money launderers often acquire real estate through shell companies or offshore entities, masking the true source of the money and obfuscating the paper trail. These transactions can involve cash purchases, making it even harder for authorities to trace the origins of the funds. Once the properties are in their possession, criminals can further conceal their activities by renting them out or flipping them for a profit. Rental income provides a seemingly legitimate source of revenue, while flipping properties allows them to launder large sums of money in a relatively short period. But the cunning doesn't stop there. Real estate offers another enticing opportunity for criminals: smuggling. Imagine a warehouse or commercial property strategically located near ports or border crossings. These properties can serve as hubs for smuggling operations, allowing cartels to move contraband, whether it's drugs, weapons, or illicit goods, under the guise of legitimate business activities. To add another layer of complexity, criminals may engage in structuring, where they make multiple small real estate transactions to avoid triggering reporting requirements and evade detection by financial authorities. So next time you're swooning over a mega mansion or country house, just remember, behind every luxurious facade could lie a tangled web of crime and corruption. Cash-intensive businesses. Cash-intensive businesses serve as a golden ticket for criminals looking to hide and smuggle their illegal money in plain sight. These operations, ranging from seemingly innocuous storefronts to bustling enterprises, provide the perfect cover for illicit funds to slip through the cracks of financial oversight. Imagine a bustling neighborhood convenience store, where the steady stream of customers and constant flow of cash create an ideal environment for clandestine activities. Cartels and money launderers capitalize on these businesses by mingling their dirty money with legitimate earnings, effectively laundering it in the process. Using structuring, they break down large sums of cash into more manageable amounts and then deposit the money into the business's accounts. This genius tactic helps avoid triggering alarm bells with financial institutions that are required to report large transactions. Another ploy involves inflating the business's revenue through fake sales or services. By artificially boosting income, criminals can launder significant sums of money without drawing suspicion. These businesses become a front for criminal enterprises, with the appearance of legitimate operations masking their nefarious activities. Cash-intensive businesses also offer a convenient means of smuggling illicit funds across borders. Whether it's a casino or a nightclub, these establishments provide the perfect cover for physically moving large quantities of cash without raising eyebrows. Cartels and money launderers exploit the constant flow of patrons and transactions to slip their ill-gotten gains past customs and into offshore accounts. But the game doesn't stop there. Once the money is laundered through these businesses, it can be funneled back into the criminal underworld to finance further illegal activities, or even legitimized through investments in seemingly legitimate ventures. Cryptocurrencies. Over the last few decades, cryptocurrencies, hailed for their decentralized nature and pseudo-anonymity, have become the new playground for criminals seeking to cloak their illicit activities. They've created a digital Wild West where transactions happen at the speed of light, and identities are shrouded in cryptographic anonymity. While transactions are recorded on a public ledger known as the blockchain, the identities behind these transactions are often obscured by complex cryptographic addresses. This makes it incredibly difficult for law enforcement to trace the flow of funds back to the individuals orchestrating criminal activities. Cartels and money launderers really value the borderless nature of cryptocurrencies. With traditional banking systems, moving large sums of money across borders raises red flags and triggers regulatory scrutiny. But with cryptocurrencies, funds can be whisked away to any corner of the globe with minimal oversight. Cartels exploit this feature to launder money across jurisdictions, bypassing cumbersome regulations and laundering controls. Cryptocurrencies also have privacy coins, specifically designed to obfuscate transaction details and shield the identities of users. Coins like Monero and Zcash employ advanced cryptographic techniques such as ring signatures and ZK snarks to ensure the privacy of transactions. This makes tracking and tracing funds nearly impossible, providing cartels with a clandestine avenue to launder their dirty money. The decentralized nature of cryptocurrencies means there is no central authority overseeing transactions. This lack of oversight creates a haven for criminal enterprises to operate with impunity. They can set up anonymous wallets, conduct transactions on unregulated exchanges, and launder funds without fear of intervention. Money launderers and cartels are also drawn to crypto because of the allure of ICOs, initial coin offerings, and tokenomics. Criminals can create their own cryptocurrencies or invest in legitimate projects to launder their ill-gotten gains. By participating in ICOs, they can convert their dirty money into seemingly legitimate digital assets, further obscuring the origins of the funds. Bulk cash smuggling. Bulk cash smuggling serves as a prevalent method employed by criminal organizations like cartels and money launderers to secretly transport large sums of illicit funds across borders. This tactic involves concealing substantial amounts of cash through various means, including hidden compartments in vehicles, false bottoms of luggage, or even within garments. Criminals come up with all kinds of ingenious ways to smuggle huge amounts of cash. For instance, in 2013, U.S. Customs and Border Protection officers arrested a Tecate man on Friday after discovering $654,900 in unreported U.S. currency hidden in the spare tire of the vehicle he was driving. And in 2014 in Hong Kong, a man was arrested with stacks of cash strapped to his body as he attempted to smuggle over $500,000 across the border into Shenzhen. Although these smugglers were caught, hundreds of cartels and launderers get away with bulk cash smuggling every day. The appeal of bulk cash smuggling lies in its ability to provide a veil of anonymity to the perpetrators. Unlike electronic transactions that leave digital trails, cash transactions offer limited traceability, making it challenging for law enforcement agencies to track the origin and destination of the funds. And in regions with lax border controls and amidst the vast volume of legitimate cross-border transactions, slipping through undetected becomes a plausible endeavor. Front companies and investments. Front companies and strategic investments are integral components of the clandestine operations employed by criminals, including cartels and money launderers, to conceal and smuggle their illicit funds. These entities serve as legitimate facades, camouflaging the true origins and purposes of the illegally obtained money. Let's delve into how these tactics are utilized in the underworld of financial subterfuge. Front companies, also known as shell companies, are essentially phantom entities that exist on paper but lack substantial operational activities. They're registered under the guise of legitimate businesses, often in jurisdictions with lax regulatory oversight or opaque corporate structures. Cartels and money launderers exploit front companies to funnel their dirty money into the legitimate economy. This is achieved through a variety of deceptive practices, such as fictitious invoicing, inflated transactions, or the creation of complex corporate structures to obfuscate the trail of illicit funds. Moreover, front companies may engage in seemingly lawful activities to further mask their illicit operations. For instance, a front company posing as a consulting firm or import-export business may provide a plausible cover for money laundering activities. By mingling illicit funds with legitimate business transactions, criminals can launder their money while maintaining a veneer of legality. In addition to front companies, criminals utilize strategic investments to launder and smuggle illegal money. This involves sinking ill-gotten gains into legitimate businesses or assets, thereby integrating illicit funds into the legitimate financial system. Cartels and money launderers may acquire businesses in sectors such as real estate, hospitality, or finance, where large cash transactions are common and regulatory scrutiny may be less stringent. Strategic investments offer several advantages for criminals seeking to launder their money. They provide a means to legitimize illicit funds, generate additional revenue streams, and diversify assets. Furthermore, investments in high-value assets like real estate or luxury goods can facilitate the movement of illicit wealth across borders, circumventing strict financial controls and enabling the smuggling of illegal proceeds. Front companies and strategic investments serve as indispensable tools in the arsenal of criminals engaged in money laundering and smuggling activities. By exploiting legal loopholes and leveraging legitimate business channels, these nefarious actors can obscure the origins and destinations of illicit funds, posing significant challenges to law enforcement agencies worldwide. Gambling. Money laundering through gambling represents a complex and multifaceted challenge for law enforcement agencies worldwide. Casinos, online betting platforms, and other gambling establishments provide fertile ground for criminals seeking to disguise the origins of illicit funds and integrate them into the legitimate financial system. One of the primary methods used to launder money through gambling is by breaking up large sums of illicit money into smaller transactions that fall below the threshold for reporting to financial authorities. For example, a money launderer may purchase casino chips or place bets in increments of just under the reporting limit, effectively laundering the funds without raising suspicion. Additionally, criminals may exploit the cash-intensive nature of gambling to combine illicit proceeds with legitimate winnings. They may use cash obtained from criminal activities to buy chips or make bets at a casino, then cash out their winnings as seemingly clean money. This process effectively cleans the illicit funds and allows them to re-enter the financial system without scrutiny. Criminals also use gambling as a means to convert large sums of cash into more easily transportable and concealable forms of value. For instance, they may exchange cash for casino chips, which can then be cashed out or used to purchase high-value items such as jewelry or luxury goods. By converting cash into assets that are less traceable, criminals can effectively launder their money while avoiding detection. The rise of online gambling platforms has further complicated efforts to combat money laundering in the gambling sector. Online casinos and betting sites provide anonymity and convenience, making them attractive targets for money launderers. Criminals may use stolen credit cards or cryptocurrencies to fund gambling accounts and then withdraw the proceeds as seemingly legitimate winnings. Online gambling platforms can also facilitate the transfer of funds between accounts, allowing criminals to move money across borders with ease. They may use multiple accounts or engage in peer-to-peer betting to obfuscate the origins and destinations of illicit funds, making it difficult for authorities to track and intercept them. Apart from online gambling, criminals can exploit the vulnerabilities of sports betting to launder money. Match fixing and point shaving schemes provide opportunities for criminals to manipulate the outcomes of sporting events and profit from illicit bets. By placing bets on predetermined outcomes, money launderers can effectively launder their proceeds while avoiding detection. Furthermore, criminals may use gambling establishments as fronts for more sophisticated money laundering operations. For example, they may purchase casinos or establish gambling rings to launder money on a larger scale. These operations may involve collusion with casino staff or management to manipulate the outcomes of games or tamper with financial records.